So tonight we're going to talk the Rezzy, roads, the hospital, the schools, and a little more. Stay tuned. And we're live, coming to you from an undisclosed location somewhere in Northeast Ohio. I'm O'Malley of O'Malley's Adventure. That's Lee Brunckart, and we're in the Fallout Shelter. I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. And it was a long time coming.
It has been.
It has.
Thank you.
So, um, usually when I start these live streams, we do something that's light. And by light, it's usually something that's funny. So, I want to remind you of a class that we took. Lee and I both took anatomy physiology, and we had Miss Sowers.
Correct.
And if there was a class clown, they were in that class. If you remember, they used to sit us apart from like alphabetical order people,
Correct.
and I sat by Mark McGeorge.
Okay.
Now ask yourself how much I actually got done. That's
I sat right down from you, so
right, right,
that's one of those things where I'd say I neither can confirm nor deny.
right. So anyway,
So thank
no,
you, Mrs. Sowers, for all your patience with us.
she had. You know what? She had boatloads of patience.
Absolutely.
I mean, because it could have been a lot worse in that class. So, all right. So, to start the show off, we got a few things we're going to talk about. Obviously, the Rezzy, the roads, the hospital, the schools, some other stuff. At the end of the show, we are going to open up the phone, and you can call in to 330-809-1924 if you want to talk to us live and ask questions. And I believe we are ready to go, and we're going to talk about the Rezzy first. Now,
Well, actually, before we get going, what I want to clarify is
okay,
um, this live feed is specifically to give details,
right, yep,
known details.
yep,
We're not going to speculate on questions.
right,
If you have a question, we have an answer. Um, that's what we're going to give you. If we don't have that answer, we'll get you that answer.
sure,
Um, but this is just the reason that I wanted to do this is because there's a lot of misconception about what's going on with these four particular subjects, how things really work inside the government, how funding um, may or may not be able to crisscross the subjects that we're going to be talking about.
sure,
But it's just strictly the facts.
right. And another thing that I want to sort of throw out there too is finger pointing, bashing, and that type of thing. That is left for other places on the internet.
Absolutely.
So, uh, with that being said, I think we should start with the. Let's see, where are we at here?
Well, we can start with what you got up there right there.
Yeah, let me bring that up. Okay.
Okay, so I have provided Josh with uh, many different documentation today. And the very first thing we're going to see is and just kind of slowly scroll by because this will all become permanent record of this live feed.
Okay.
This is a letter directly from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. I am part of the committee who, was attempting to restore the reservoir.
Okay.
And at the meeting, when I had made the comment that they haven't done anything in 25 years in reference to maintaining the structure, I was told that that wasn't true, and I told him that I had the paperwork at home to prove that. So the first two pages that you're scrolling through here, basically it's a letter to the city telling them that what type of dam this is, that they are the dam owners, and that they were responsible for it. And what you're going to see on the next pages as he scrolls through here is the proof that I was talking about. Um, yeah, it starts right here.
Okay.
And this it'll basically scroll through 25 years of all the requests that they put in and all the comments that came back from the city, whether they asked for an extension, whether they said they didn't have the money for it, whether they didn't respond at all. But it's all right here.
Right.
And, this takes us right up to the point, and why they're receiving this letter is because the ODNR is now telling them, because they haven't complied, that they now have to tear it down.
Right.
And I guess why this is so important to me as a taxpayer, because there's always been this issue, well, the west side may not care about the east side. Should we spend money on it? Certain people benefit from it, certain people don't benefit from it. The concern that everyone should have is that we all pay taxes.
Right.
Okay? We pass this tax so that the city would maintain and beautify our parks.
Right.
That's what it was intended for. We also all know that shortly after this was passed through, under the other administration, that the Legends Golf Course was slipped into the Park and Rec Department.
Okay.
So it's not the fact of really who's benefiting from it. It's the fact that the funds were not spent this whole time that they've had these requests.
Right.
We've had this tax money.
Right.
And the money was not spent to maintain and beautify
Right.
parks.
I have a question you might be able to answer. It says here that they began making periodic inspections in 91.
91.
Who inspected it before 91?
I don't have that answer.
Okay. Well, I
I
didn't. Was there a reason that they started in 91? Was it a restructuring of that part of Ohio government?
all that I know is starting in 91, how this all starts is the city stops making the repairs.
Right. Right.
So I'm assuming, because I know in the 80s they dredged it.
Right.
That's when we found the car.
Right.
So I don't want to speculate, but I know before 91 they were doing things. From 91 on, nothing was being done.
Nothing was done. So with that, there's basically, to my knowledge, there's three options on the table, right? And option one, the estimated cost is $1,156,000. Annual operating, I believe, cost would be $10,000, and it would restore the stream with a lowered dam. Okay. The option two would be construct small pond with lowered dam. Estimated cost just under $1.5 million, and its annual operating cost would be $110,000. And then option three, which is just under $5 million with an annual cost of $310,000, would be the dam, the spillway, and restore the lake.
Correct.
So out of those three options, now this is from my side. I've worked with the city since '96, and I've seen how, with good intentions, things start, right? And then over the course of time, things kind of get pushed here, pushed there, and things go wrong. I mean, unforeseen things. So, like when in the mid 80s, if you said, hey man, 20, 30 years from now, you guys are going to be taking layers off, and nobody was even thinking that, right? So, with especially the parks and other departments in the city, low to mid cost is better. And here's why. We had an operating for the parks that was passed in what, early 96. It was right before I started with
It
the
was
city.
95, but yeah.
95. Um,
We
and
probably still didn't start collecting it. See, that's another thing.
right,
People have to understand when a tax is passed,
right,
the money isn't there immediately.
right,
You begin, we pass that typically in November, so you're not beginning to get that revenue until after the first quarter of the following year.
right. So when I started with the city, the parks had the best everything. They had money. They were taking care of things, and now they don't. Okay, and for a multitude of reasons that I don't want to get into the why, but it did happen, right? So to me, I understand why people want the Rezzy. I get that, but at the end of the day, I don't know that straining a department further. That's why I like option one the best, but I would settle for number two. The full blown number three, eh, not so much, huh?
Well, let me chime in on that
Okay.
because the Restore Our Reservoir Committee,
Okay.
our goal was to achieve option two.
Okay.
Our goal never was to bring it all the way back
Okay.
uh, be, uh, because the other thing that we learned by talking with the Ohio Division of Natural Resources is that once they tore this down,
Right.
if you bring this back, it has to come back to today's standards,
Right.
which was going to cost millions and millions of
Sure.
dollars, and we understood that. That wasn't our goal. The thing is that the reservoir is the most visited park in the city.
Okay.
Um, it's used for prom pictures, wedding pictures.
Right.
It is our premier handicap accessible park.
Okay.
Um, and who else has waterfalls in Starr County in
Right.
their park?
Sure.
Um, just a lot of things that could have been done with that. One of the options that I was most interested in, I do like the fact that where it currently is, why they are having them remove these layers off of the dam, is because now it's no longer a dam
Right.
and it's now out from underneath the state and federal governments.
Right.
I'm a conservative.
Right.
Less government, the better.
Right.
I love that. Option one and two leaves us in the same format,
Now let's go back to that. So if they take the layers off,
which they have now.
okay, then then it's not considered a dam
It's
anymore.
no longer a dam. It's free flowing stream,
Okay.
which what this really extends from. And I really think why the order came down is because the Ohio EPA,
Okay.
and you can just Google this simply and look it up. Um, there are many of these dams, and to the state they're useless.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at our dam, why was it the reservoir? Why was it originally created?
Right.
It was created to power a mill, which lasted 3 years.
Right.
Then they turned that over to the city so that the city could access it for water. And I do believe that lasted 3 years
Okay.
because then we found the aquifers that we currently use.
Right.
So other than that, it's just been a really nice,
Right.
beautiful body of water. The problem with that from the EPA's point of view is it's dirty water.
Right.
It doesn't allow the water to flow. It doesn't allow the water to naturally clean itself, which is another thing that Restore Our Reservoir was taking into consideration. There is an environmental side to this.
Okay.
I remember, going up there and fishing with my father. You don't see too many people fishing up there anymore.
No.
So if we could have cleaner water,
Right.
healthier fish, I think that'd be great. I'd
Sure.
love to, see them even bring, say, like derbies back. The Stark
Right.
Parks do derbies.
Well, if I don't know if you were around or remember, you could ice skate there.
No, I'm not that old.
I
Do you remember that?
yes, I do.
I don't
I
remember that.
remember ice skating there, and there was a little shack, and it's gone back a little bit where you rented skates, and
Okay.
I think it was on the side of the Rezzy heading up towards Wales. But I was little, and there used to be these little shacks on the side on those concrete flats. I don't know if you remember those being there
I don't.
before they all this happened. There were small like shelter things. If I'm not mistaken, I'll have to look. I work with a guy. He's a sort of a Maslin historian. I think he has pictures of them.
That'd be awesome.
And no, that was. But again, well, to tell you how young I was, I had double runner skates. I didn't have a single blade. I was small. I mean, I'm talking like maybe the year before I started kindergarten.
Okay.
But it would have been the late 70s. Um, do you remember when you could drive down through it?
I do.
Okay,
I remember stalling out the engine.
you're right. Right. So, but back to modern times. So, if the layers off, how much oversight is
It's just a free running stream now.
right? So then
There's no oversight
so
on
there
it.
won't be any more
No.
people stepping in, sending
Not
letters.
unless they bring it back to being a dam.
Okay.
Um, Now, the interesting thing is there is one way in the state of Ohio to have a dam with no oversight. And this was the one thing that I was trying to push for. If you operate the dam as an educational dam,
Okay.
there's no oversight on the dam.
Hmm.
Um, and I thought maybe right when we were at the very beginning of this and nobody had touched it yet,
Hmm.
we could get, hook up with the school system, get this turned into, because one of the things is green energy is the future.
Sure.
I mean, we're totally aware fossil fuels, they're not going to last forever. I mean, I don't think we're going to see it in our lifetime that the earth runs out,
Right.
but it's coming. And, we're supposed to be good stewards of the land and, prepare for our future. And, I want my daughter to inherit uh, good things that we leave behind.
Right.
Unlike, I don't want a burning river from, from Cleveland. Um, so if we could have gotten in with the school system and turned them into, um, say, like micro turbines
Yep.
to power. Now, keep in mind, there's not enough water that goes over those falls that would light the city,
Right.
but there is enough for educational purposes to understand the concept of how hydro dams work.
Yep.
Unfortunately, ODNR didn't give us that amount of time.
Right.
Pretty soon after this letter came out, it was just literally, it was set in March. I think we started tearing it down the end of March, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Um, so that option just went right out the window. Now we could bring it back up to that, you know,
Right.
and make it a educational hydro dam again. But now we're talking about investing millions back into it, and we're not going to recoup that.
So, what kind of timeline are they looking at as far as being done with the decision making? Or have they decided on one, two, or three, or when is that supposed to happen?
Yes, the city has decided that they're going to go with option one.
Okay.
Now, the interesting about being done was the first order was to take off 3 layers
Okay.
and bring it down 4 feet. That was the order given by ODNR.
Okay.
They did that at a phenomenal cost. It was well over $60,000 to bring in the pumps and the backhoes and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. In defense of the city complied within a timely manner. They were done. They removed all the equipment.
Okay.
Then the ODNR said, we want you to take the next layer off.
Hmm.
And the reason for that being is I just think ODNR had gotten to the point of they didn't want to be involved anymore.
Gotcha.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
I am speculating on that. I don't know that for sure,
Right.
but there was some reason
That they.
that they wanted that other layer taken off. So now that's where we're at now.
Okay.
We had till, I believe it was the end of 2018 to tear that off, but there are other funds involved here. Okay, so this brings us into where grant money comes in
Okay.
and how grants work. So there's two grants that they're looking at. The one grant is secured by the state of Ohio.
Okay.
It's for $250,000. Now, when we're talking grants, what people need to understand is you can only use the grant for what it's specified to be used for
Right.
and how it's specified to be used
Right.
for. So this $250,000 grant cannot be used on the roads.
Right.
It can't be used for the schools.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It can't be used for the downtown project. It is specially set aside for the reservoir. That's it. For
Okay.
the dam, matter of fact, it's even specified.
Right.
For the dam.
Okay.
It's also a reimbursable grant. So that means that the city has to front the money first. Then they apply, and then they're reimbursed.
Gotcha.
Okay? However, because we've now had to bring this machinery in twice,
Right.
they are pretty much eating up most of the money.
Right.
So none of that's going to be used to rebeautify the city. Now, the Ohio EPA, at the time that this all began, had also set aside a $500,000 grant to rebeautify.
Okay.
So when these, the pictures I sent you about the options, options 1, option 2, option 3,
Right.
this was taken into consideration when these pictures were made.
Okay.
And
So.
well, what's changed? That's one of the reasons they're processing through this to get this grant money. But one of the things, we're into a new year now and a new federal budget. My understanding is a chunk of this comes from the federal, goes federal to state,
Right.
to local.
Sure.
And President Trump is cutting
Right.
basically the EPA's budget
Right.
by several millions of dollars. So now what we don't know is, well, we know this. We don't get any of it if we don't get the work done. That's the first thing.
Right.
The second thing is because we're in a new, budget now from the federal government, we don't know how much of that now that we'll
Right.
get,
Sure.
if we'll get any of it.
Right. So be nimble, be quick, or
Exactly.
or be gone with the money.
And that's the thing with the grants. It's only, like the grant from the state. It's 2018.
Right.
So if we don't move on it and get the work done in 2018, we lose the money.
Sure.
It's for 1 year.
Okay. So stay tuned for that. We're going to revisit that probably on another show
Okay.
by itself, because that the funding, did they have any projections as far as how much was actually going to be taxpayer money after the reimbursement?
To redo it all,
Right.
well, it would only been $500,000 if we got all of it.
Right.
So the first one, I believe, is like $1 million.
Right.
So
Yep.
you're talking, $500,000 of that then would have came out of our pocket. And then as the options went up, the cost went up.
Sure. Gotcha.
And their only answer when we asked them how they planned on paying for that at the park meetings was that they said that they were exploring low interest loans.
Okay. Right. Right.
Um, it's,
So-
it's always borrow and
Like
spend. And I hate going down that path.
Right.
I really, truly do.
Yep. Okay. Do you want to move on to roads, or do
Sure.
you want to talk?
Well, and this is good because this will come back to you. I actually do have some questions for you.
Okay.
Questions that were sent in to me.
Alrighty.
The first thing was, the city streets that are be selecting to be repaved.
Yep.
This person would like to know, how are these streets selected?
The street selection is, it's not super etched in stone, but there's like a grading system that they try to use, and that's done through engineers. Um, every once in a while, and it's not often, the our department actually has input. Um, that hasn't happened in a while. Usually, uh, and by our department, I mean the guys doing the patching, not like the department head, because I do believe Lee is part of the grading process with the engineers.
And that's Lee McBride, not me.
Right, 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 right.
We're clarifying
I
that.
should clarify that, right. Um, but the grading system, especially with how long it's been since we've had a paving program, um, like one of the streets that's not on the list is Duncan, from like the boys club all the way down to the end. I don't know if you've driven that. It gets a lot of traffic, and that street's a hot mess. And I would venture to say over the past decade, we've put more than, let's see, 6 tons a day, an easy 60 tons. Easy 60 tons of patch, not skim coating. I'm just talking patching the potholes. An easy 60 tons. I mean,
It's
that's,
amazing.
yeah.
Well, and that brings us, we've talked about this before, when we patch a road.
Yep.
When you just come down the road, throw some patch in,
Right.
it is temporary.
That's something that I want Tim and I on our street department show. We kind of touched on it. Once it gets to the point that you are patching a road, it is temporary. Always. It's just, how long is it temporary?
Right.
Like when you patch in the spring, I don't care how you do it. If you get anywhere from 3 days to 3 weeks, you're doing really, really good, because there's so much difference in temperature, right? And like today, there were places we had to patch. I know it was raining. That patch is very temporary, right? But the places that we were patching, like if you go up on Bird, I don't know how often you travel that road, but from well, pretty much the whole one side of it is, it's a mess. Well, today we got 3 tons in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, and other than the work that we did on Wales, the rest of it went on Bird, and we're nowhere close to being done. I think we're about halfway heading towards Amherst. And like I said, with the rain, I guarantee you tomorrow, if you drive on Wales, there's going to be potholes.
And I'll drive on Wales, because I drive all over the
Right.
county.
So,
And which is a really good thing, because I get to see the whole county. From Hartville to Wilmot, from Canal Fulton to
mm-hmm,
Alliance. Um, and it has just been a known thing that Massillon has,
right.
where I work, it's just been known that Massillon has got the absolute worst roads in the whole county.
Yep.
Now, I will say, patching wise, we are ahead of Canton this year.
I don't know if
So,
that's a compliment,
yes,
but
always.
so
Well, and it goes to show that it takes money. People have to understand this. I understand we want things, but it does take money. And to me, for somebody who drives all over the county, I drive all over every road that you could imagine and then some. Thanks to the invention of the GPS,
right.
I have been on roads in Starr County I bet people don't even know exist. Um, but I can see where, the tax money that it comes out of our pocket. We're giving that to the city.
Sure.
And you can see it being applied.
Right.
And that's a good thing. But that leads us to the next question.
Okay.
Now that we have all this money.
Right.
Okay, and that's something else I want to clarify. This was a $9 million road tax.
Yep.
That was paid out over 5 years.
Right.
Or I should say collected over 5 years.
Right.
So I know I get into this sometimes on social media with people. Um, the city doesn't have the whole $9 million,
Right.
so they're getting um, just a little over like 1.8 million per year. I think it comes out to, which is a lot of money,
Right.
but it's a lot of money for patching holes and resurfacing.
Right.
It's not a lot of money for completely redoing roads.
Right.
There was an article done in the Canton Repository, which it's a couple years old now. It actually showed the different layers of the roads
Yep.
and how much it cost. And back then, so I'm sure it only costs more now, a mile of road was a brand new road was $1 million.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, when you only have that one, and it's not even 2 million, you really have to stretch it out.
Right.
Now, now that we have this money, so we'll go on to the next question, which is,
Okay.
um, why are we always running out of salt for the roads?
The 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 salt issue is simple in a sense that the salt bin that we have, okay, is the same salt bin that we had in the 80s, before all the annexation, before all the uh, expansion and whatnot. Um, with that being said, the city's doubled in size, right? There was some money put into the recycle building, and that was the new salt bin. And it held, I think, don't quote me on this, one of them held 600, the original 600 ton. And I mean, if you stacked it in there and it was coming over the sides. And I think the new one was supposed to hold 800. And council's approved money a couple times for a salt bin. And Tim, the past couple superintendents, and they would always say, "Well, you guys got council approved money for a salt bin." And Tim would say, "Okay, I'm going to bet you that before you leave, we won't have that bin." And every superintendent took that bet, and they all lost.
I just want to clarify that's a road superintendent.
Right, right. So, so we did. A coworker of mine, he got some numbers together because Joel was under the impression that it cost a certain amount of money, and we were like, "Well, we've seen them for less." And he said, "Get some numbers together." We got the paperwork together. We gave it to safety service director. I'm almost sure that it's going to be addressed because you can't. It's when we get salt, the state gets theirs first. So if you have a really nasty storm and the state's gone through it, it all comes from that same mine up north, right? When they order it, they get theirs first, and if there's extra loads going out, then it's dispersed amongst municipalities and townships and whatnot. So if you don't have a place to store it, and we get into a situation like we had here last month, and the state is ordering it by the thousands of tons, and you're out, you're going to wait. It doesn't matter if you're out or not. You won't get it. And that's what we ran into this year. Because when you think back, it's been a few years since we've had a really bad winter. And this winter wasn't that bad. We just had a 3 or 4 week stretch that really exposed, okay, we just can't store it. And if you can't store it, you're going to run out.
Brings up to another question that I typically hear.
Okay.
There's a state storage unit
Yep.
there at 241 and 93.
Mm-hmm.
People say, well, why don't you just go over there and get some? So how does that work?
Okay. We tried that one time. Okay. And apparently there was a miscommunication between the guy that was boss at the time and the state. And the way that it worked out, we were allowed to get a truckload apiece. Now, if it's a heavy snow and I'm a truckload's going to last me an hour and a half, right? So if each truck can get a truckload, you the entire city if all the routes are being filled with drivers, is good for an hour and a half.
Which brings me to another thing, real quick.
Okay.
Why don't we tell the people how many people work in the entire street department of the city?
9.
9 people.
And
Hold on. And how many trucks do we have?
I believe they're all up and running now. Let's see. We've got the 2 Fords, the Internationals, Western Star. We have 8 trucks. The one that was purchased but we can't use because of load capacity, and there was some. It's a 1 ton, but you can't use it like you would a normal 1 ton for the smaller streets because of the bed design on it.
Okay. And when you came to this city,
Yeah,
how many people were in the street department?
there were 22 people in the street department.
22 people.
22 people and 3 mechanics. Now we have 1 mechanic and 9 people in the
Right.
street department.
So, no, I'm just bringing this up
Right.
because there's over 18. Keep this in mind. It's square miles. 18 square miles.
Yep.
And I, for one, can tell you, Massillon becomes a metropolis very quickly when you have to walk it.
Well,
And you really begin to see how far this city stretches.
well, and another thing, if you're a municipality, you don't get help from the state or county.
Correct.
So, like, I have the Northwest. I take care of Lincoln Way from the top of the viaduct
State route.
out to 93. Okay?
Okay.
If I'm plowing, and let's say it stops, I have to make 4 passes out and 4 passes back to get it curb to curb. It's 4.2 miles one way.
And sometimes it's snowing while you're doing that.
Right. So, and obviously, being that it's a state route, it's a main, I spend a lot of time, especially once you pass John George's and heading towards the State Highway Patrol Barracks.
Right.
The way the wind comes across there, if you get an inch of snow, you'll have a 6-inch drift on the one side.
Right. Now, here's the interesting thing. So you turn around about 93?
Yep.
Okay. You're out of salt.
Right.
Now, what do you got to do with that truck?
You have to get reloaded
Which means you drive where?
all the way back to 401 Walnut. But I've had the Northwest now for quite a few years. I'm pretty good at not running out. You'll only make that mistake a couple times.
Right.
Because I mean, I'm sure it's irritating for the people using the road. It's really irritating for you as a driver because you don't just go pick up a load real quick and come back where you left off.
No, but I want people to understand there's only one place to fill that truck.
Yep.
So,
Right.
I mean, even if you are going all the way out and you have salt and you're coming all the way back,
Right.
you're still driving all the way back. And it's winter time.
Right.
The streets are bad. You're the one out there clearing them. And what's your top speed? 30, 35?
No. Well, if I'm in the center and I'm plowing, I can do about 28,
Okay.
20, a little over 25. Once you get to the sides, the mailboxes are close enough, and some of the houses are close enough. You can't go fast because you're gonna
Oh, yeah.
you're gonna take out mailboxes and you're gonna knock on people's doors with that slush sometimes, especially the ones right there between like St. Barb's and John George's. Those houses sit really close, and if you make the mistake of moving up through there a little too quick, somebody will call and let you know you're going too quick.
There are actually places in the county where there are signs that say plow driver slow.
Yep, out on 93 heading towards Tuslaw. There's one.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah,
But I just want people to understand you can only go so fast.
right,
There's only one place to fill the salt.
right.
And there's only that one bin.
Yep.
So, but I just, these questions are best answered by you. The last one I have for the roads is why is there never enough asphalt to fix all the potholes?
Generally, there is more than enough asphalt. One thing that and it's a growing trend is if it starts snowing, they call people out, right? Right now, it's potholes everywhere, right? One person worked overtime last Friday. So if he sends 2, like today, there was only 1 crew out patching, myself and Tim. We got 3 tons in the morning. We got 3 ton in the afternoon. 6 ton.
Now what's a crew?
Today we actually had a third guy in the arrow board because we were on Wales Road.
So a crew is a truck and 3 people.
If you need traffic control, usually it's just Tim and I. If we're on residential streets like on Bird,
Okay.
that would just be 2 people.
So just out of curiosity, because you said there's like 9 people.
Right.
So that's three.
Right.
So what are the other 6 people doing? Because that's what people will ask. Where's
Well,
these other 6 people at?
like today, they had a crew out on Valerie, and they were bringing back all kinds of stuff, tires, and we do clean up. Um, Usually when it's raining, like cleaning off catch basins, sticks, debris in the road, which is one of those things where you ever see people blow their leaves out into the road?
All the time.
That's illegal.
Absolutely.
And when it collects on the catch basins and the water don't run off, that's really bad. So, but
Especially you live in the low-lying areas.
right. So generally, that's what we do on days that it's raining. Um, but like today, there were some spots we had to patch. I mean, even though or the hole was full of water,
Right.
chances are the patch isn't going to stay very long. I mean, you kind of had to.
All right. So, which brings me to, if you can bring up the streets there for the now. I only brought the northeast side with me because that's where I live at.
Okay.
And why I'm bringing this up is because last year,
Yeah.
okay, so the city said we're going to have this 5-year plan. We're going to get this tax money for 5 years.
Okay.
So we're going to create this 5-year plan. So the understanding was to the people that obviously on year one, you would pave the absolute worst roads with the most mass amount of traffic.
Right.
So on my area, that would have been like Amherst, State Road,
Right.
Avenue. I mean, these are
Right.
thousands and thousands of cars roll over these roads.
Right.
And the list came out last year,
Right.
and it's all these side streets.
Right.
And I mean, they did do some. They did do Amherst in front of Amherst Shopping Center and clear out to the Jackson Township line, which, trust me, absolutely needed it.
Right.
However, from Lake Avenue all the way to Cherry, in front of the hospital, it's still not touched.
Right.
It's still not even on the list this year.
Yep.
So this is the northeast one from my side.
Right.
And I'm not going to tell you whether, my opinion, because I don't want to speculate,
Right.
whether, that you think that these roads need to be paved or not. What I'm going to tell you is just Google Maslin repaving 2018. The article from the newspaper will come up. The roads, you can see the northwest side is starting right there.
Yeah.
Get in your car and go drive on some of these roads. And this would be my question to the city.
Okay.
Again, I'm glad you answered the question that there's a grading system.
Right.
I did this. I took this list and I went around and I drove around my neighborhood.
Right.
So if we start right at the very top, so we're going to have 4th Street Northeast
Right.
from Sheffield Avenue to Indiana Avenue.
Right.
Okay. The road looks nicer than my road. But that road is supposedly so bad for the 2nd-year plan. If you go down to number 9, it says Indiana Avenue Northeast
Right.
to 4th Street end.
Right.
That's the same road.
Yep.
So what the grading system is evidently saying is that road is so bad, it made it on the list twice.
Right.
And then and that's actually a road that curves. So
Right.
it's 4th Street, it becomes Indiana, and it dead ends into 3rd Street.
Right.
When you come up 3rd Street, it gets into Delaware. So if you go up to number 6 then,
Right.
they're going to do Delaware Avenue Northeast from 3rd Street
Right.
back to 4th Street. So they're in a sense doing this big loop. That's
Right.
what they're doing. However, when you come up 3rd Street to Delaware, if you turn right and go down 3rd Street, headed in that direction, which would be south, the left side of the road is so bad. If you tried to park your car over there, the potholes would probably eat your car.
Right.
But that road's not on the list.
Right.
So in my personal opinion, I mean, I drove over a lot of these roads. I was really the biggest thing that I was shocked is that the roads over behind Progressive Chevrolet that go up into that allotment back
Yep.
there, which we annexed that,
Yeah.
they're horrible up in there.
Spring
And
Hill sediment, or out there where Tennyson runs off.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
and again, they didn't get any attention last year. They're not getting any attention this year. Um, so I would just say maybe the grading system needs to be reevaluated.
Well, I know out behind Progressive, originally when that allotment was put in, let me go back to the main screen here. When that allotment was put in, all of that was concrete, right? And there's natural springs under a lot of that allotment. And it would rain, and it would rain, you'd get a hard rain, and water would be coming up through the expansion joints in the concrete. So even now that there's layers of asphalt on it, um, we do lots of work out there. And a lot of it has to do with basically water management. I mean, you get some really, especially at the bottom of, I believe that's Greenbrier, maybe. Anyway, they put in new catch basins, but I guarantee you we'll patch there 2 or 3 times in the spring if 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 everything stays good, and then we'll patch there 4 or 5 more times in the summer.
Well, and all I'll say about that is, I lived in my house for 12 years,
Right.
and all we get is patch.
Yep.
And you can only take so much patch.
Right.
Um, and again, it's temporary.
Right.
And when it comes out, it's already coming out on my street.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You can literally hear my car, when you drive down there.
Right.
And it's sometimes, right now it's not too bad, but sometimes it's so bad, you can't even swerve to get around them, and you can just hear the
Right.
car rumbling over it.
Right.
So again, I know there's only so much money and so much they can do. I'm just saying that, um, and I'm not calling the city to say, hey, come repave my road.
Right.
I understand there are worse roads.
Right.
And all that I'm saying is, some of these streets that are listed on here, again, I'm not going to say which ones. It's my personal opinion, and that doesn't count. But I know there are worse roads,
Yeah.
that could be on this list.
Well, I and again, I mean, even working in that department, sometimes we question the grading system. I mean, because there are areas I can take you to where you're probably going to go 20 or 30 yards, and you're going to get rid of 3 tons of mix. I mean, that's and some of those areas don't make the list, and so I think um, a lot of it has to do with the people grading aren't on those roads as much as the people doing the work. Maybe changing some things around as far as how they're graded and who does the grading might be a little bit advantageous because, like, I mean, I mean, and you've been on those roads. You
I
know the
have.
ones I'm talking about, and
Yep.
that aren't on the list, and you're thinking, man, how can that be? Well, again, there's probably a better way of grading. Um, but those are things. Again, if people give their input in a positive way, and I'm not talking about, and you should hear some of the people call in. I mean, I get it. I mean, I've driven on the bad roads, okay, and I understand why you're mad. But don't take it out on our secretary. You know what I mean? I get it. I
Right.
understand. I understand you're paying for it, whatnot. But interacting with us is good. Just getting out there and being very upset is counterproductive.
Absolutely.
So,
Now, before we had the tax money and everything, I did present to council one night um, an option.
mm-hmm.
Are you allowed to bring up the website on that?
Yes,
Okay.
I can do that.
We're going to bring up this website.
Let me do this.
And what this actually has to do with was there is a company right here in Ohio, and they make machinery that what it literally does is it scoops up the asphalt,
Mm-hmm.
um, literally recycles it inside the machine, and then as it's driving down the road, it puts it out on the backside. So it's basically an asphalt recycler. It's made by the Benedetti company. You can Google this, go to their page. I was going to try to show a short video tonight. However, evidently there are copyright
Right.
laws,
Yeah.
even though it's on YouTube and it's open for everybody to freely go and do.
Right.
So if you'll just leave that up there a second so everybody can see the name. If you just
Right.
put in Benedetti asphalt recycler, the site will pop right up, and you
And
can go in there and learn about it and everything. Now, council hashed this over, and basically the machine, if you want to buy it outright.
Right.
Now, and these statistics are at least 2 years old. At that time, the machine would have cost 1.5 million.
Okay.
Okay, so one-time fee. And that's to own it. The machine comes, everything on the machine, including the teeth to grind the road. You actually get 2 sets of teeth.
Yeah.
10 years. Everything on the machine is guaranteed for 10 years.
Okay.
Okay. If you didn't want to put up the money and purchase the vehicle,
Right.
you could contract the company, and it costs $300,000 a month. You get 20 days of service, Monday through Friday times
Sure.
4. You get 20 days of service. The good thing is if it's a really rainy day
Right.
and you don't get no service, they bump that day so that you do still get that day.
Gotcha.
So that's what you're getting is 20 days of service for $300,000. And so let's just use that for an example. If they only did one road a day,
Right.
that's 20 roads a month. And we'll say all summer.
Right.
So you're talking 20, 40, 60 roads. Okay. And that would have been $900,000.
Okay.
Okay. If you flip back to the list, I thought it actually had the price on there of how much it was going to cost.
Oh, the list for.
Yeah, that had
The
the streets
paving.
on. I thought it had
Yeah. Hold on. Let me bring it up. Street paving.
there it is. $4.155 million for repaving.
Yeah.
Okay. $4 million.
Right.
And they're doing, I think, 45 roads this year. So that machine
Right.
would have done a minimum of 60 roads
Right.
for $900,000.
Right.
So, but somehow I was told that council looked at it, considered it, and decided against it. But all I want to do is urge you to go to the site, or
Right.
matter of fact, even go to YouTube. It's because that'll take you right to the video,
Yeah. Sure.
and just put in there the Benedetti repaving and
So, what was the reasoning behind not
Cost.
doing cost?
cost.
Well,
So
it from the little
now,
bit.
well, their big thing was, just so everybody knows the whole thing. It takes, I believe, 7 people to operate the machine.
Mm-hmm.
So you only got 9 people in the company,
Right.
or the department, I should say.
Right.
So you're taking the bulk of, the force to do
Right.
this. But my issue about that is we have no problem as a city saying, oh, well, it's a safety issue. We need more cops. It's a safety issue. We need more firemen.
Right.
Okay. Well, here's a news flash: the roads are a safety issue. And it seems to me, and you can put your 2 cents
Right.
in on this. It just seems to me that anytime there's extra money where we can hire more people, the street department is always overpassed.
Yes.
They just overlook it and
Mm-hmm.
they put that money somewhere else. And I just thought that that was, a poor excuse, where we could have really been saving money. And not only could we have saved money down the road, but like Perry Township's gone through an issue, because the cost of asphalt and stuff just keeps going up and up and up. Well, they have a separate road tax that pays for their own over there.
Right.
Well, Perry Township roads are, um, starting to, they need done. They need a lot of work.
Right.
The city could have rented that out,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and brought revenue into the city.
Right.
Now,
And
one of the other major concerns was that, oh well, you'll take all the money away from the people who do the asphalt living for a job.
mm-hmm.
I just don't want to mention any names, but I'm sure everybody knows
Right.
asphalt companies. Um, but the truth of the issue is this machine would have been spent more on the little side streets
Right.
where those companies would not have really have major interest in. They want to do the big state routes where, because if you notice, it was 4 point so odd millions of dollars.
Right.
So there's money coming in from the state, from the feds to help do those roads, and that all that work would have still have been there. So I don't even see that as an excuse that you'd be cutting other people's jobs out.
Right. I think the some of the underlying things are going to be addressed here soon. They just we had a guy leave. Um, he went to a pipe fitting outfit, and they just hired a guy. Right. Now they gave the test. A few people took it, but um, matter of fact, the one guy, our only mechanic, Rick, um, we're actually nominating him for Employee of the Year. I mean, the past snowstorm, dude, he was getting after it. I mean, he wasn't happy about it. If you're the only guy turning wrenches and everything's breaking down, yeah, you're not the good humor guy. But he got it done. Um, Again, we used to have three mechanics, right? The routes are still there. The trucks are going out, but instead of three guys, so if he's working on something and he has to go get parts,
Everything
everything stops.
stops.
Right.
Right. And
So
and and as these years tick by, how old are those trucks getting?
right. Well, the I have 82. The truck that I drive um, is a decent truck, but it's a 2006. I mean, uh,
2006.
yeah, Cliff's truck uh, is I think it was purchased in '99 or 2000. No, '98. Right in that time frame, right at the end of the
It's
'90s.
almost getting back to our graduation.
The one truck, we call it the Green Bean. It's an old Jackson truck that we bought when we were really in a tight jam for money, or
Right.
for money and trucks. We actually purchased two of them from Jackson Township. It's a '94, and it's a major player in snow. If it goes down, it will be fixed. Okay.
Okay. And so everybody knows we graduated in 91.
Right. Lee, I think you just called me old. So, but anyway, that's uh, certain things are being. I mean, they're starting to see where you're going to have to do something with staffing because um, with the way things went, I would especially the past 10 years. I mean, I'm on my fourth operations superintendent, street department boss, right? And
And he should be getting ready to retire.
right, and then there was Joel, Al Hennon, George Meyer, and Mike Laudiana. There was four safety service directors in there.
Right.
Right now, the way that, especially in the street department, the only people that know that our staffing is less than half are the people working in the department, and that would be me and Ron.
So you're going to be up for the next superintendent position.
I don't see that happening. So
Okay.
anyway,
So that's our little spiel on the
going forward.
roads
Yeah,
and our complaints to go along with it, I guess. But it's just something I just would like to see the city give more attention to.
sure. Well, in it, I think before there was a lot of argument as far as money versus priority and this, that, and the other. We have operating money now. I mean, the roads, they just passed a tax. So moving forward, um, you need people. The roads are in bad shape, but now you have money. Ensuring that that money is spent right, um, I think that's going to become a big issue. I mean, keeping certain people in place for longer than 2 years, that would be something to look at because uh, the people that are in place, a lot of them don't have a background specifically in civil engineering. They might have management backgrounds, but not in road work. So finding those people to sort of oversee, you know, looking at a list like that and saying, hey, man, wait a second. Something's wrong with the grading here.
Well, and that's a problem that we see in all city governments because a lot of these positions are filled, um, say, through political favors. You know,
Right,
we get elected, we have to repay the political party, we put certain people in certain positions.
right,
And that's for a whole nother story, but we all
right.
know that that goes on.
Sure.
And my biggest complaint has been about a lot of these positions that people currently hold. They're, like you said, not technically qualified.
Right.
Like they may have a business degree,
Sure.
but they don't really have any inkling of what you do. They can manage because they have a business degree.
Right.
But they don't have any inkling of what you do.
Right.
Um, and that's something else I think we, the citizens, need to start demanding is that we begin to put highly qualified people who have track records in the field. You
Sure.
know, if you're applying for a job with the city,
Right.
especially in a administration position,
Right.
you need to be able to show to the city, here's my track record.
Right.
Here's what I've already accomplished.
Right.
Massillon's at this critical tipping point. This keeps coming up, like we'll talk about at the hospital here, with our demographics. You know, we're losing people. We're not
Right.
attracting people, and that's not good for our future.
No.
And we need to, again, put people in these positions who have very good track records. They can prove to the city, this is what I can do for you, as
Right.
opposed to, well, so and so's a friend and he deserves a chance.
Right.
We need to get beyond that.
Sure.
So,
Absolutely. So do we want
all
to
right.
move on to the hospital?
Absolutely.
So the hospital, just to give a quick overview, the hospital at the beginning of the year was Quorum, I believe, is out of Tennessee,
Yes.
and they said in 30 days the hospital is closing. The city finds out, they file for an injunction, the court grants it, they work out a deal. Now the city has basically a hospital. Um, there was a lawsuit filed by Scott Graber.
Two lawsuits filed because the city filed.
Right, and then
Now we're on to the Graber lawsuit.
right, and basically the premise around that was that the city went into, or the council went into executive meeting and blah blah blah.
Right.
So, but that's where we're at right now. Moving forward, I want to start by saying Massillon needs a hospital.
Absolutely.
One of the reasons that I started putting this little timeline together and getting involved with uh, the closing and then potentially the reopening is Uh, Nobody's going to be healthy forever. And if you have to have a 25-minute ride either that way or that way, um, it's not looking good for the home team if it's something serious like a heart attack.
Well, and it's not only that Massillon needs a hospital, it's Western Star County. I think sometimes being a Massillonian,
Right.
we just think of ourselves as Massillon,
Yep.
but we don't realize the effect that we have on our surrounding communities. So if you think it's a long trip to the hospital, think if you lived in Navarre, Brewster,
Beach City.
Beach City, or the outer skirts of North Lawrence,
Mm-hmm.
you're talking maybe a 40-minute trip. So if you have a heart attack, and they say every minute counts. I think it's the first 10 minutes or the golden window.
Right.
And most of those places have volunteer squads.
Yep.
So that means you place your 911. Somebody got to jump in their car. For the most part, some of them do staff a little bit, but for the most part, at the worst case scenario, they're going to jump in their car. They got to run, get the squad. Maybe wait on the other person because there's usually two people.
Sure.
Take off in the squad. You could travel miles out in the country.
Right.
Finally get to you. And now you're looking at a 40-minute ride to the hospital.
Sure.
So it's not just Massillon. It's, like I said, it's Western Stark County. And we absolutely, positively have got to have something on the west side of Stark County, to treat such cases.
Right. When the after the hospital closed, I can't remember her last name, Michelle from the nurses union.
Actually, I don't remember. It was Linda and Michelle. Josh and I both went to this meeting. So we took pages and pages of notes, and all I remember was they told us their names were Michelle, Linda.
Right. I think it's Michelle Mahan.
Did you get it?
Yeah. I found her on Facebook. I friended her on Facebook, and
Okay.
the nuts and bolts of what they want to do is they want to form a commission.
Right. Now, let's clarify. Michelle is the head of the National Nurses Union.
Yes.
And you're right. That we were all there that night because they were looking at forming a commission.
Right. So, ba- a lot of uh, what's going on is how the structure or the commission's going to function as
Right.
far as
Why don't we put up that first page that they gave us? This
Yeah.
one here about affinity.
yeah. Let's see, it's
And we're just going to leave it up. We're not going to read it to you.
that's this one. Healthy Start.
No, that's not.
That's not it.
No, it's this one here.
Let's see. I don't have that one. I don't believe. I thought I.
I didn't send you that one.
Is it a second page?
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Right there.
All right.
So this was the first thing that they presented to us. And are they going to be able to see the whole page like that?
I can scroll through it.
Okay. Just so that you guys can actually, again, Josh and I are doing this so that you guys have the facts.
Right.
So this is what, the documentation that they presented to us. And this was kind of just the gist of what's happening, basically.
Right.
Okay. Then, like I said, they were there to form a commission. So that takes us to this page. They're going to love us.
Yeah.
We're just scrolling through these pages. Like, hold still. A good thing is YouTube has pause, right?
Right.
And then basically they were going to write a letter to the city, and these bullet points here were going to be the main things. Their concept of the commission is, what are we, the community, looking for the future of our hospital?
Right.
So they wanted people over profits. They wanted, sustainability over health security.
Right.
Commitment. Now they want a full service acute care hospital in Massillon, and Josh and I are going to talk about that tonight. Transparency, democratic oversight, commitment to anchored institutions, fostering research and education, dignity and respect for the workers, and I'm sitting here doing exactly what I just said I wasn't going to do. But basically, they're going to put together this letter to present to council,
Right.
and these were the top things. The biggest thing that came out of this meeting is what type of relationship should the city have with whomever is going to operate this facility.
Right.
So before we get to that part, I've been pretty vocal about this on social media,
Right.
and I have just been totally opposed to the way that the city originally handled this.
Right.
Okay, you have this for no. Keep in mind, nobody wants to see the hospital close.
Right.
I bought my home. It's 2 blocks from the hospital.
Right.
I bought it there because of the hospital.
Right.
Okay. Josh said we're not all going to be healthy all our lives. Yeah, I'm working on that a little bit quicker than he is. But I did. I specifically bought my house in that area because I had a child,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted a good school. And Whittier at that time was a blue ribbon presidential school,
Right.
which was my first thing. And the second thing was the hospital was 2 blocks away. I could have ran there if I had to. So you have this company who I have to admit actually astounded me. Even though it was an abrupt decision to us, they actually did everything that they were supposed to do.
Okay.
They notified the state. They notified the city. They gave their employees more than 30-day notification. And that law was actually passed under Clinton. They gave us news we didn't want to hear, but they did everything that they were supposed to do. The first thing the city did was turn around and slap them with a lawsuit.
Right.
Now, as a conservative, I personally believe that government should only be doing something that either a private business can't do or won't do.
Okay.
So right now the hospital is being ran by a private company, and my personal opinion, that's the way it should be done.
Okay.
Okay? So you turn around and you slap them with a lawsuit. And in the same breath, you then say, well, we'd like another private company to come and take over.
Right.
Okay, so here's my question. Do you like to be sued? I'm going to guess no one ever answered yes.
Right.
So it costs you a lot of money to be sued.
Right.
You have to defend yourself. And if you think it costs you a lot of money, think about if you are a national company. It's going to cost you a tremendous amount of money.
Right.
And then, like I said, in the same breath, you're saying, oh, now we want another company to come and take over.
Okay.
And that's what they're seeing. Well, wait a minute, you sued that company. Why would I want to come and stick my neck out?
Right.
And that's all debatable.
Right.
And again, that's my own personal opinion on that. I just would have rather have seen the city take the approach of, here we are, the city. How can we help? Now,
Right.
I was told by the union that the whole purpose of this was it was their idea, she told me,
Mm-hmm.
and they're the ones who told the city to do it, and that they would get this hospital to stay open longer so that they could find a buyer. So the city does this. It cost us, the taxpayers, which we saw approved last night at the
Right.
council meeting, $100,000
To start.
to start. That's probably what we owe at this point in time.
Right.
Okay. Because, and so we get this lawsuit, and what did it get us? It got us a week. The hospital stayed open 1 week longer than what it was supposed to after the court. Now, they were trying to get 120 days.
Right.
Didn't happen. So you're talking 4 months. So we sue you for 4 months and spend $100,000, and we get a week. Break that up over 7 days.
Right.
That's a lot of money.
Right.
Okay. The other thing that happened was Affinity is not just the hospital. That's something else we have to clarify. They have buildings actually throughout the county.
Right.
And part of this is those buildings. Now, on one hand, they're saying that because of the court case, they're staying open till March 6th. My doctor works in one of those buildings,
Right.
and he had they were um, I can't remember the original date, but what I'm getting at is they did extend it, but it's not 120 days.
Right.
It might have been an extra month. Um, but now what we're finding out with these outlying buildings, this actually just came out in the last couple days now,
Right.
but it's public information now. We were told at this original meeting, or we were given the assumption, I guess I should say, is
Right.
that everything was just going to shut down.
Right.
Now we're finding out that these outlying buildings actually have leases on them,
Yes.
and these leases work two ways. Either Affinity owned the building, such as the professional building on the Affinity campus there,
Mm-hmm.
and they leased it out. And Altman has a lease on this building.
Right.
So if you are a doctor who's associated with Altman, even after March 6th, you're still going to be there.
Right.
That building's not closing.
Right.
Okay? So when you, I guess, look at that spectrum of it, the $100,000 we spent really didn't matter because it was going to stay open anyways.
Right.
The other way that this works, and what I was told, was for example, there's a building over in Belton Village that Affinity, was leasing.
Right.
So that means that once we assume responsibility for that, we're going to have a lease payment on that.
Hmm.
Okay? Now, you do have to keep in mind that the people who are using that building are paying Affinity. So the doctors who are in there, or the therapists, they're paying to lease their spot.
Right.
So it's probably going to, I'm assuming, be an exchange where the city might have to pay for that up front, and then
They get money
they're
back
getting
from
that
them.
money back.
Right.
So it should even out. And I'm sure Affinity was probably their for-profit company, so they probably actually were making a little bit of money off of that.
Sure.
So that may actually benefit the city in that aspect. Um, but at the commission, what they wanted to know was, what kind of relationship do we want? So the city ends up, they have this $30 million hospital now for $1. Um, and Quorum now gets like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years worth of write-offs. So I think they're going to benefit more out of that in the long run than
Sure.
being a for-profit company. Um, and that's something that the city is currently looking at right now. So are they going to sell it? That's an option.
Right.
Okay. Another option that they have is they could lease the hospital. We were told that that's what Worcester does. They lease the hospital for $1 a year. But on the other hand, the city has a $30 million hospital, and the city is millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars in debt. So they may sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they could lease it.
Right.
Then, do you want a for-profit company to come in like we had, or do you want a non-profit company to
Right.
come in? And these all have their strong points, their weak points. But again, we're just giving you the facts of what was being discussed at this meeting. I don't know. You want to?
My take on the hospital is slightly different. Um, and I've said this from the beginning. What Quorum did, was it by the letter of the law? Yes. But pardon my language, it was shitty. For 6 years, you're losing money. Never approach the city, and then say, let's say it was 60 days. Let's say they went above and beyond what the law says. That's still wrong. Because at the end of the day, like you said, they're getting the 6 years of write-offs, but the people working there, what do they got? Nothing. And at the bigger picture, this is why I think what they did is wrong. Even if everybody working there that was displaced, even if we relocated them, let's say they were making the same amount of money, the city's still without a hospital. I'm not so concerned with the the money that they're saving now. And let's face it, it's terrible to see people lose jobs. But not only that, but now you don't have health care, like you said, in Western Stark. That's why I think it's wrong. I mean, it's to me that's borderline criminal.
Well, let me touch on that just a second. The moment that they announced that they were going to close the hospital,
Yeah.
a couple weeks later, I received a letter from my insurance company. Guess what? They canceled their contract with them.
Right.
I could no longer go to that hospital.
Right.
So it didn't matter whether that hospital stayed open one extra day or 120 extra days.
Right.
I couldn't have went to that hospital anyways.
But now let me run this by you. 3 years ago, when they were in their third year of loss,
Right.
they come to the city and say, "Look, we need a buyer because we're failing."
Okay, but let's stop right there a second. You
Okay.
said they come to the city.
Yeah.
Okay. I also find it's interesting they said that they've been losing money for 6 years, but I'll leave that go there.
Right.
Um, why? Okay, so the other thing that I did is I happened to know a former board member who sat on the board of Affinity,
Okay.
called this member. My first question I asked them was, how many times has the mayor spoke with you and the CEO?
Okay.
I was informed that the mayor comes every year and the mayor delivers the state of the city speech.
Okay.
So she tells them how the city's doing.
Right.
They never discuss how the hospital's doing. So why would basically the chief executive officer of the city,
Mm-hmm.
whose second job, because the first job you're actually charged with by law, which is the safety of your city.
Mm-hmm.
Your second job is to make sure that your city is conducive for business.
Right.
Why are you not meeting with, should you not be having a yearly or bi-yearly summit meetings with the leaders of your, of the main businesses of your city to make sure everything's functioning correctly?
Well, I'm going to look at that in this aspect. If she's coming forward and telling how the city's doing, her city, the company could come forward and say how our business is doing,
They could.
and they didn't.
I'm not denying that.
And that's where, and to me, that's where they would meet halfway.
Right. But he's the CEO,
Right.
and he's running his business.
Right.
The mayor is the CEO of the city,
Mm-hmm.
and you running your business is making sure your businesses are being healthy,
Right.
doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
So it's just an interesting take. Everybody has their own
Right.
opinion on
Absolutely.
how those things would work. I'll be honest with you. I was very, very surprised to find out that in the 6 years that she's been mayor, which is what they claim, the 6 years they've been losing money.
Sure.
Okay, that she's never sat down with them and had a face to face on finances,
Right.
where they're struggling. What could we have done as a city over the years, in say reference to tax relief,
Or
for instance,
abatements, stuff like that.
Could there have been something else to be done? And we can shuffle the blame
Right.
any way we want. The point is, we still don't have a Western Stark
Doesn't have
doesn't
a
have
hospital.
a hospital, and that's what has to change. But now, talking about what kind of hospital that this is going to be, the other thing that this board member and I discussed was the fact that hospitals no longer operate the way they used to operate.
Right.
And I really thought this was really interesting. We see this, it's like right in front of our eyes, but we don't really realize it. But it used to be, if you were going to have a procedure done,
Yep.
any procedure, you went where? to the hospital.
Right.
Okay, that doesn't happen that way no more. You need knee surgery done, hip surgery
Spectrum.
done. You're more than likely heading out to Spectrum.
Sure.
You need something, CAT scans, MRIs, any kind of scan like that.
Right.
Your insurance company is probably more likely going to ship you over to a stat care.
Right.
I even know over in Belden Village, they actually have an external, it's called an open MRI in case you're claustrophobic. But what I'm getting at is those procedures are no longer. The other one that he mentioned was actually eye surgery, and we go to that um, Ohio Eye Care, I think it's called. It's right across from Stark State.
Yeah.
Packed, absolutely packed, every day. And to think that at one time all those people would have been going to a hospital, and the hospital would have been generating that money.
Right.
Today, it's not happening that way.
Right.
So as we move forward, are we really going to have a whole hospital? We already know that Affinity closed the maternity ward
Right.
because we're not having any babies here.
Right.
Well, I can't say we're not having any, but it's by no means enough to keep open a maternity
Sure.
ward. The good thing that we do know, and I'm just giving you facts, you take this for what you want. We know that Altman is going to open a 24-hour ER for us at the West Branch there on Wales Road. But that's probably not going to happen until about June, they said. And we know that Altman already has a lease on the professional building on the Affinity campus.
Right.
So I'm just giving you facts where that's going. What we can tell you, Josh and I were both at the council meeting last night, and mum is the word.
Yep.
There was absolutely nothing about if anyone's been considered, if anyone's been rejected. I mean, matter of fact, they didn't even talk about it.
No, they went into
Executive session over it.
Right.
Right.
Which, well, at the end we'll discuss that too.
Right. But the hospital was a major thing, and this will lead into the school talk that we're going to have. And I actually called Josh back and I added the schools onto this talk because I went to the state of the school speech that the superintendent gave. But the hospital is absolutely it's a necessity if we want to attract people to our city. And how we're going to go forward with this, we don't know because they are mum.
Right.
Totally mum.
And it did seem, whether, and I looked into it a little bit as far as the law goes on entering an executive type meeting, and either I was looking at the wrong thing or I'm not seeing something. But they gave the ORC like 121.11 or something to that effect. And the way I'm reading it, council can do that. But I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a layman. Because I was just scrolling through and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, man, I don't know. I'm not seeing what they're seeing.
Well, I think what he was talking about, and I did not get to hear the WHBC speech, but I think what he's talking about, it's not so much that they went in and talk about it, it's that they went in there and made the decision in there instead of coming out and presenting it. Isn't that what his complaint was?
Basically there's 8 reasons that you can go into a session like that. And if I heard the attorney correctly, she said they didn't meet any of those. But when I read through them, I'm thinking, I must not be seeing something.
Okay.
But either way, it seemed odd that the city didn't appear to be the least bit put off by even doing it. They just said, okay, let's go into session, and they voted and it passed.
I do know if they want to go in there
Right.
and just discuss things, when they come back out, let's say they're doing a first reading on something. Most legislation requires 3 readings.
Right.
So they may and most people don't know this, but council has a public session
And
and
a
then they
work
have a
session.
work session.
Right.
Well, most of the people don't come to the work sessions.
Right.
So that's when they can talk about what they want to talk about freely.
Mm-hmm.
So then they get to the public session, they're on first or second reading, and someone has a question that they may not have the answer to, but it may stir up controversy in the chamber. So what they'll do is go into executive session, they'll go in, that way they can talk about it, and then just come back out, and all they have to do is say second reading,
Right.
and they move on.
Yeah.
But when you're going into executive, when you are, say, on third reading, or the other thing that council can do is they can take a vote to suspend normal order
Yep.
and declare an emergency and pass it that night if need be. One thing that's good for is for paying bills.
Yep.
Because we don't want late fees. We don't want to wait 6 weeks on 3 readings, and we need to pay a bill. So we'll suspend the rules, take a vote, everybody suspends it, then they'll say, now I make a motion to pay the bill.
Pay the bill, right.
They all vote,
Right.
and they pay the bill, and it's done. But if you're on third reading, or you're attempting to declare an emergency and step over that and vote, and you're going in the back room and you're making decisions and then not coming out and explaining that to that's the whole part of transparency. That's
Right.
what the open meeting rules are all about, so that we, the people,
Right.
I mean, there are elected representatives, they're supposed to be sharing with us, how they're coming to this term.
Right.
They can't just say, here's the subject, disappear, and then come back and say,
Right.
we're going to vote no, we're going to vote yes, and that's it. So that's one of the things, if you noticed in her health care there, transparency and the democratic oversight. That's we the people.
Right.
So that's one of the things that they're fighting for. Before we get off hospitals, I actually did have some questions about the hospital. Somebody wanted to know, I thought this was really interesting, when the city takes it over, there's obviously utility bills.
Right.
And now what the person told me, I don't have any facts of this, but it sounds about right. The taxes are over $500,000 a year on the hospital. So they wanted to know who will pay all of that. I did pose that question to a council person, and I was told that that would have to come out of the general fund. So that's interesting. They wanted to know about there was another question about whether the $100,000 was approved to pay the attorneys, and that was approved last night.
Right.
Did the city, here was another thing. See, people on social media, they were all jumping, well, we already pay a law director. Why are we paying $100,000 for this outside law firm? Okay. Well, here's a question I want to pose you. You have the sniffles, so you go to your doctor. I got a cold. I got a flu.
Right.
My joint hurts. Okay. All right. So now you're out riding your bike.
Right.
You hit some gravel. You fall off.
Right.
You break your thigh.
Right.
Your bone sticking out.
Right.
Well, that's kind of where we're at. We're in a shattered mess.
Right.
Okay. Are you going to your primary care physician?
No, I'm going to somebody that can.
No, you're going to Spectrum.
Right.
That's where you're going to end up, right?
Right.
Because you want a specialist
Right.
who deals in that. Okay.
Right.
So what does our law director do? Well, the primary thing they deal with is they deal with the prosecutors. They put bad people away.
Right.
That's what they deal with. The other thing they deal with is if you ever go down to council and you get the agenda, you'll see all the legislation that's being presented. They draw all that up. They make sure all the wording's correct and stuff like that. That's what the law director does.
Right.
So do you want the law director now trying to do a specialized deal, like trying to, the multi-million-dollar hospital thing? And again, just like doctors, they have a general perspective. What's the word I'm looking for? A general idea. You
Right.
go to law school, you learn a little bit of everything,
Right.
right? They go to medical school, they learn a little bit of everything.
Right.
and then they specialize:
Right.
family practice, emergency practice.
Right.
Uh, they get into the bones or the blood or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I have to support the city in the fact that they went and got an outside law firm, because if you want it done right, you want your bone fixed right, you go to a specialist.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go get a specialist. But let me tell you what kind of controversy this started at council. Okay? Council actually talked about, and another thing is the law director is a part-time position.
Right.
Okay? They actually talked about first making the law director a full-time position.
Hmm.
So would that have cost the city more money?
Potentially.
Potentially. Okay. Second, um, if you want the law director to take on these cases, that law director, one of the things was talked about was they want more staff.
Right.
They want staff who specializes in
Right.
medical issues or whatever they're getting sued for. Okay.
Right.
So, and I understand people because they go, wow, $100,000. You know, that's a lot of money. It is a lot of money. I'm not saying that that's not. But council was literally talking about hiring these people and paying them, which would have typically probably had been forever.
Right.
And how much money would that have cost? So it's the good thing is I was at council last night. I asked that question. Um, they did not do that. They left everything the way it is because this happens so seldom.
Right.
It just it's just easier to do it outside. Um, some of these we already answered about the Altman issue. Um,
I got a quick question.
okay.
It's a tech question. Is the audio and video back in sync? Somebody asked that question. So I'm asking for somebody to message in about these. Apparently it was out of sync for a while.
So that meant our mouth was moving and
No, there was no sound,
oh, there was no.
or there was sound and our mouth wasn't moving. That's what I'm trying to. Sometimes the live stream gets a little goofy,
Okay.
but
So we want to finish this up because we don't want it to go on forever.
right.
So the next issue I had was the school, because I went to the state of the school address given by the superintendent of Maslin, and I was kind of shocked.
Okay.
Um, the very first thing that they had put on the board was that the city was at a C rating.
Okay.
But if you actually looked at what the superintendent had placed up on the screen,
Right.
it said K through 3 literacy programming.
Okay.
That was a C.
Right.
I cannot tell you how, as citizens of this city, how vitally, vitally important the state report card is.
Right.
As a former real estate agent,
Right.
okay, I can confirm that the very first thing anyone will ask you for when they are looking to move into your neighborhood, I want to see the state report card. Matter of fact, it's asked so much that if you go to real estate websites now,
Yep.
it's on there. You can just click it in,
Right.
put in a zip code, and boom. But what comes up when you do that is right here what you're looking at. Okay? So I thought this was kind of interesting. Um, so that's Maslin State Report Card right there.
Yep.
Okay? Um, so I did what's called a simple GPA average.
Right.
So I just assigned everything, a D's worth 1, a C's worth 2,
Right.
and you divide it through by 6.
Right.
Okay? So that means Maslin Simple GPA is a 1.2.
Okay.
That's a D,
Right.
not a C.
Right.
A D. Okay? So, like I said, I have people who come to me, or used to come to me, not a realtor no more. God bless the realtors. So there we have several schools that are right around us within 10 minutes or less driving distance. Okay. I think I sent these to you. Did I send these to you?
I got this link right here, the one that's up.
That's it.
The main page, yeah.
Okay.
Is it?
So can I? Will this show on the screen?
Well, which
This
part
is.
is? Which one is it? I can click on it and bring it up.
Oh, this is Jackson.
Jackson. I can do this.
Okay. Yeah, just go to
Jackson.
J,
Yeah.
and it'll say Jackson Star County. Third one there.
Jackson.
Star
Lo-
County. Yep.
It'll take a second to load. There we go.
Okay. So this is Jackson's. So
Holy cats.
so their simple one is 3.2.
Okay.
Okay, I got a couple of these if you want.
Hold on.
I know you're kind of.
Somebody messaged in. Okay. Wait a second. We'll come back to that.
Okay. So I'm gonna do Perry and Northwest too.
Perry.
I apologize. I should have had these sent to you.
Hold on a second. Stark.
All right.
So,
Okay, so this is Perry's.
right,
And so Perry has a simple GPA of 2.5.
right.
Okay. And then why I brought Northwest is because in my job, one of the things that we do is the Stark County DD, the people who are members of that who go to our public city school systems,
Yeah.
they do things called life skills. So we take them out. They learn how to work, be for job on time. They learn how to ride the bus. They learn how to grocery shop.
Right.
They actually, think it's amazing. They actually go to the grocery store, buy food, and then go back to the school and cook it.
Really?
And I told them everybody should be taking these courses.
Right.
This is why it's important to show up for work.
Right.
This is how you buy food to make a meal. I never thought about that. I guess people today, like, you know how our moms used to throw together a quick meal like noodles and tuna and make tuna noodle casserole.
Right.
I guess we got a whole generation must have been raised on fast food because they know about a can of tuna and they know about a bag of noodles.
But they don't
They
know
don't quite know how to put them together. So that's interesting.
Right.
So I bring up Northwest. Is this Northwest here? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, now their simple GPA is 2.5. So that's exactly the same as Perry. And I just bring this one up because, again, it's less than 10 minutes away. This is Canal Fulton.
Okay.
And I happen to have a teacher this year, because their teachers ride with them. She just moved here from Georgia. Okay. Now, her husband works he's a sales rep for Smuckers. He got a job with them out of
Okay.
Orville. Getting, which isn't that far down the road from Massillon, really.
Right.
So, they were looking at all these different school systems. And the first thing they asked for was the state report card when they were moving up this way.
Sure.
Okay. So they decided to move into Canal Fulton. So that's where they're living. So she's close to her job, saves on miles on the car. And then he just drives on up the road to Orville.
Right.
Okay. Now I know what everybody's going to say is, oh, it's the money. Okay. Massillon is a very, very well-funded school.
Okay. Do you want me to go back to Massillon?
Yeah, you can go back to Massillon.
All
That's fine. And actually, go into. Are you inside the Massillon link?
I'm on the state's website.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you scroll down through their pages? That's what I wanted to do. See, you can get. It's okay.
Okay.
What I'll do is the one thing I always hear from the superintendent is that we're always more than just this piece of paper.
Right.
Okay. And that's true. Okay. There's a lot more that goes into educating a kid besides these simple tests. But what you have to understand for the growth of a city, people coming in or businesses coming in, when we're talking about demographics, and you and I are going to have to do a show just on demographics
Sure.
and the importance of that. Okay. They're all looking at this. that lady who moved here from Georgia, she
Yeah.
looked at all these state report cards.
Yeah.
This is it, though. That's all that she looked at.
Right.
Okay. Um, the businesses who want to come here, they look at this because one of the things is your graduation rate.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we graduating people? And I think it's amazing. You got to look to see, are we graduating people in 4 years or 5 years?
Hmm.
Okay. We're doing pretty good getting them out of here at 5 years, but not so much at 4.
Right.
Now, I'm sure that does play into sports,
Sure.
a chunk of that,
Right.
but that's for another day.
Right.
Um, so if you take the superintendent's thing and you say, oh, well, we're more than that, you can actually dig down through this.
Okay.
And you run across this thing called your district's teachers.
Okay.
Okay. I just thought that this was absolutely amazing. So teachers with at least a bachelor's degree, 98.5%.
Okay.
Okay. Now, my wife is a teacher, for those of you who know us. So I thought, well, how could you teach and not have a bachelor's degree? Because it's 98. Shouldn't they all have 100%?
Right.
But Maslin is, now, this was her opinion. Maslin's very high in tech. That's one of their specialties,
Okay.
vocational techs.
Okay.
And sometimes you'll bring a tradesman in.
Right.
He doesn't actually have a bachelor's
Sure.
degree, but he might be a
Like a journeyman or
thank
something.
you.
Like
Yes, he'll have his journeyman papers or something like that. So he's been doing it for X amount of years, and he's a master of his trade. So that could be where that's coming from. The percentage of teachers with at least a master's degree, 55.9%. So that's over half your teachers.
that. Right.
Over half your teachers have a master's degree. Okay. Percentage of core academic subject in elementary classes not taught by highly, it says not taught by highly qualified teachers.
Right.
0.7. Okay.
Okay.
So that means most of the teachers then are considered, and highly qualified, that comes from George Bush's No Child Left Behind Act.
Right.
Okay. So, percentage, the next one is percentage of core academic subject in elementary classes taught by properly certified teachers, 99.7.
Okay.
Okay. Those are really high numbers.
Sure.
Those are phenomenal for the school.
Right.
But this is down, I think it's like 30 pages deep when you open this up.
Right.
This is almost at the end.
Right.
So if you're not really digging through this, okay?
Right.
School counselors, 10. School nurses, 5. That's got to be a nurse at every school.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
We didn't have that when we were kids. Our nurses floated. School psychologists, 3. Library and media specialists, 7. General education teachers, 177. Career tech teachers, 18. Special education teachers, 51. Teachers aides, 22. Fine art teachers, 10. Music teachers, now that's what my wife is. This one blew me away. 12 teachers. 12 music teachers.
12. Just
In the district.
Okay.
In the district. These are all district numbers. Physical education teachers, 10. And speech and language pathologists, 5. Now, as somebody who took speech as a kid,
Yeah.
that's amazing because I had to go to my own private tutor,
Right.
and then weekly, I would see the speech teacher guy. I think she rotated too,
Right.
and they would make sure that you're making progress. So when I look at these, I think to myself, we are more than just this page.
Right.
Okay, so it's not the staffing.
Right.
We have phenomenal teachers.
Right.
Okay, highly qualified staff.
Right.
Okay, so what I would like the superintendent to do if he sees this, you need to take a look at your administration
Right.
because everything starts at the top
Right.
and it comes down. And we can no longer settle for it's good enough. It's not good enough.
Right.
This is detrimental. This, you got Maslin up there still.
Yeah.
This is absolutely detrimental. And I guess what really, now I did not give this to Josh to go up because this is my real estate taxes. Okay?
Okay.
And this is why, as a tax-paying citizen, I'm speaking out. And that is that my real estate taxes are a half, okay, are $816.96.
Okay.
Of that $816, I paid to the schools, and this does not include the library tax because that's separated on your tax form, okay?
Okay.
This goes strictly to the schools. I paid out of that $816, $464 of that tax money,
It's almost half. Well, it is.
57%,
Yeah.
went directly to the
The
schools.
Right.
Okay? So you're given half your tax bill. More.
More
It's
than
50
half.
my share is 57%.
Sure.
Okay? That's going to the schools. Okay? So when you're handing somebody half of your tax bill, I think they need to be accountable to you.
Sure.
That's a lot of money.
Yep.
And if you dig on down through this, I just wanted to mention on the money aspect of things. And I do have that. Maslin is actually considerably lower. And I apologize. I should have had it ready here. But the state is spending approximately $9,000 average per head.
Right.
I don't seem to be able to find it. And Maslin's paying a little over 7,000.
Sure.
So they're actually below what the state says that they should be at.
Right.
And I actually said that wrong. The state says that we should be no more than 9,000 per head.
Mm-hmm.
And we're actually around 7,000 per
Which
head.
is less.
So we're actually less.
Right.
So we're actually, think about that. We're hiring all that highly qualified teaching staff.
Right.
Okay. So yeah.
So
And we're doing it for less money than the state says that we should be able to do it.
right.
And so I have to look at the administration then.
Right.
Something has to be happening up at the top to have this. I mean, again, we're handing over half of our real estate taxes. We are continuously asked, like every other year it seems,
Right.
to pass a levy for the school. Renew, renew, renew.
Right.
And Maslin, to my knowledge, has never faltered on that. I think we have always passed the taxes here.
Right.
So to me, this is unacceptable now. And I don't think most people see this.
Right.
Okay? This is just absolute. We are failing, especially on progress. And under progress, if you get into that, it talks about preparing the students, for future, for their
Into this one here.
yeah. When you get into the pages there,
Right.
it talks about preparing them. Oh, I'm sorry, I take that back. I'm wrong. If you go down to the bottom, prepared for success. That's the one.
Okay.
So are you preparing them for college, basically? That's what your kids are prepared for, a D by the state standards.
Right.
And I have to admit, it's been a few years now because my next door neighbor, both of their children are now through college. But they both went right out. I know they were honor roll students. I don't know if they were honor students. But they were smart. They both played sports. Didn't have any problem getting into a university, but both of them will tell you they weren't prepared and they
Right.
had to take remedial courses,
Right.
which is just a waste of money.
Right. Because in college you pay for that.
You pay for it.
Right.
And I know. I'm in there right now. And it's about, currently I'm paying $888 a class. And why pay that if you've already paid the taxes to say my child should be at this level?
Right.
And then I've already paid that.
Right.
Now
You want me to pay?
I get to college and they say, oh, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to take a remedial writing class, remedial English class, remedial math class.
Right.
Thousands more coming out right there. But the last thing I want to touch on here is there's another page in here. It actually gives each one of the schools. So it follows those same standards right there: achievement,
Okay.
progress, gap, graduation rate, K3 literacy, and preparedness.
Okay.
So if you're looking at that, I'll read that exactly in order. So Franklin is a D. They have nothing was reported for progress. Gap is an F. Nothing reported for graduation rate. K3 literacy was a C, and nothing reported for preparedness. Gorell, C for achievement, nothing reported for progress. A for gap, nothing reported on graduation rate. C for K3 literacy, nothing reported on progress. Massillon Intermediate, and no, they are different. Massillon Intermediate School, D on achievement, C on progress, an F for gap closing. Not reported graduation, not reported K3 literacy, and not reported on preparedness. Those are kind of either K3 or
Right.
high school. I understand that. The junior high part, because that's that building separated into two things. They got a D on achievement, a B on progress, an F on gap, nothing on graduation, nothing on K3, and nothing on progress. The high school, a D on, well, we got that right there. They got a D on achievement, D on progress. They got an F on gap, the C on graduation, nothing, that's K3, and a D and progress. And Whittier, they got a C on achievement, nothing reported on progress, an A on gap closing, nothing for graduation, a C for K3 literacy, and nothing on preparedness. So, and Whittier, that's where my daughter went. That used to be a presidential blue ribbon school.
Right.
So, I just hope, the citizens who pay all these taxes that fund this, if you owned a business and this was the numbers that your CEO was producing,
Right.
would you keep him? Would you fire him? What would you do? It's your decision. I'm not going to
Right.
make that call for you.
Sure.
I'm giving you the facts.
Right.
These are
The numbers.
the numbers, the grades.
Right.
And we are paying the taxes for this.
Right.
And again, clearly, right here, the proof, that's why I love math and I love numbers. The proof says the staff is highly qualified
Right.
to be doing what they're doing. So I can't point any fingers at all
Right.
at the teachers. And God bless our teachers, because
Right.
it's a different world today than
Absolutely.
what we grew up in.
So, it is 8:30,
Okay. I
and
wanted to keep it to 2 hours. And
we're getting it pretty close. So, I want to let everybody know that here for a few minutes, the line is open. 330-809-1924, and we're going to try and answer questions if you have any. But we did get a text,
okay.
actually a series of them. It says that the taxes are correct and the amounts were taken from the auditor's website.
Okay.
But how do we have this kind of money in the general fund to spend? They are playing a shell game with our taxes. Can't wait for Lee to run for mayor again. Get your duckies in a row. You can blast the competition.
Okay. I just want to clarify that, okay? This is not a coming
No,
out
right.
thing.
Right.
I just wanted to. I spend a lot of time on social media, and I see all these incorrect things going on. Like, the one that really bothers me is, the mayor is developing downtown Massillon pretty much on somebody else's dime. She's got a lot of local funding, state funding, federal funding, stuff like that. I do not, let it be known, I do not agree with the design.
Uh-oh. Hold on, we got a call.
We gotta
Caller, go ahead.
Is this Josh?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Josh. This is Tony Moore.
Hey, Tony, how you doing?
We met at the meeting the other day.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you, it's an excellent program. I really enjoyed Lee's breakdowns.
Yes. Hey, can you turn your computer down?
I'm gonna have to turn my sound down. Hold on here.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's fine. Go ahead.
I really like Lee's breakdown and his discussion of both the hospital and the schools. I wished I had more time, and I wished I knew how to get your chat to work. I haven't been able to do that yet. But I'm going to talk about the teaching.
Okay.
And Lee, I know your wife's a teacher, and please do not misconstrue this because it's going to sound like I'm criticizing teachers, and I'm not. I was one once. Not a very good one, but I was one. I blame not the teachers, but the teacher preparation program. The colleges have let those people down. Frankly, I think they ought to have a class action lawsuit to get their tuitions refunded and their book costs refunded. There are good ways to teach. And then there's everything else. And we know what they are, and they've been studied for decades, since the 60s at least. And they work extremely well, much better than traditional schools do. And yet, school administrators and teachers refuse to use it. And they've got, they go for stuff that has been proven over and over not to work. And that's basically all I wanted to say. But I'd welcome the opportunity to sometime to get together with either or both of you and talk about why I feel that way and show you my data. Is that okay for you?
I would be open to that.
That'd be excellent. And I mean, I hope, again, what I want to do here is just present the facts. And this is absolutely critical for the growth of our city. And we know.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you.
And we know that
we're losing. The two things you need is schools and hospitals.
Absolutely. So, thank you for calling in and explaining that. I mean, my only question to you would be, and you may or may not know that. And again, we're trying to keep the show to facts. And my wife has talked about that, and I do want to clarify she does not teach for Maslin City School.
Oh, okay.
I do want to clarify that.
Good.
But she, you know, her and I have talked about this many times, but there's really not an understanding. So my question to you is if these are out there and they know that there are better ways to teach students, do you happen to know why they continuously choose not to follow that path? I mean, is it just money? Does it cost more money?
No, it doesn't. It actually works better. It's much more efficient and it's much more effective. So between those two factors, you know, it's well worth anything. The part of the problem is, if you just look at it, like if you were to videotape a class where this was done right, it would be a big turnoff for you. But the kids love it. And the other thing is, you know, I love data like you. There's just plenty of research that shows that schools that use direct instruction, precision teaching, and one or two other things together actually do 2 to 7 times better than traditional schools. The stuff that you and I, well, not you and I, because I'm 75 years old. We're nowhere near the same age. But the kind of schools I went to, you know, everybody thought was good, but I've been exposed to good teaching as an older person, and it just dropped my jaw. So I think it's a resistance to doing something different is why they don't do it. It's kind of an inertia. They have really been brainwashed in the colleges. They suffer from well, I don't want to get too technical. We can talk about it later. But they've been convinced that the more you know, the better teacher you're going to be. And if you knew the right things, I would agree with that. But the problem is they teach every theory known to man, and most of those theories, by the way, do not work. The data shows they don't work, but the schools don't teach you that. And I don't have a problem teaching you, bad theories, because I think good teachers and good administrators ought to know what a bad theory looks like so they can recognize it when a textbook company tries to sell them a textbook that's based on a bad theory, and they can reject it.
That
But I
costs
certainly don't want them
$250.
to be trying it in school.
Right. Well, and I do know in regards to that, one of the major issues that I've seen over the last 5 years, they got into this thing where they were just testing, and they had these multiple tests all years long. And the teachers were, the one thing that I heard was that we just constantly were teaching to the test. They're not able to be teachers and just teach. And then it came the like the core math, and we went through all of that stuff. Now there seems to be a pushback now from the schools where we're going to get away from so much of the testing now. So I understand all that goes on inside the schools too. That's the politics.
Yeah, you're going to be shocked. The problem is the tests are the wrong tests, and they're poorly done. And a teacher should never teach the test.
Absolutely.
But the problem is that it's the curriculum and everything is just wrong, and it needs to be redone from the middle. I tell you what you probably ought to look for is a book called The Eden Conspiracy. Now, the title is a little deceptive. Look at the subtitle. It's, hold on here. It's a problem with getting old. You tend to forget. The Eden Conspiracy, Educating for Accomplished Citizenship. And you said something, Lee, earlier that just made me sit right up, because you were basically talking about you're concerned about you were saying about that program for children who have trouble learning, and so they teach them life skills.
Yes.
And you wish that was done like that in the other schools. Well, that's exactly the kind of teaching I'm talking about. But this Eden Conspiracy, Educating for Accomplished Citizenship, it's a small format paperback book written by Joe Harless, and you can get it. It's only $20 plus shipping. You can get it from behavior.org. Just go to behavior.org and search the Eden Conspiracy.
Okay.
Or search Joe Harless. But it's got the edition you're going to get has got an introduction and a epilogue written by Carl Binder, and Carl Binder talks about the research that's been done on this school in Noonan, Georgia, that Joe Harless designed, and they were always they were like Maslin or worse. I mean, they were a terrible school, and so Joe designed a curriculum based around the community's needs, and he interviewed everybody. In fact, he interviewed parents and workers and business owners and government people all over the country. I participated. I was part of that research program that Joe did. And so I know the data is valid, but the whole curriculum is based on it. And the interesting thing is once they started teaching, the first thing they had to do was enlarge the school, because the kids were telling their friends about it,
Right.
and so their friends would start coming, and they ran out of space for the kids, so they had to expand the school. The next thing, that's kind of remarkable is that this was a sleepy country town, a small town, Noonan, Georgia. It's about an hour from Atlanta, South Atlanta. It was mostly farm. Companies started moving to Georgia because of this school, because
Amazing.
these people were job ready,
Right.
and other people would go to college. In fact, Joe's school, worked with a local college so that the kids could get their high school diploma and get about 2 years of work into their college if they wanted to go to college. The other factor you'll find in the back of the book by Carl Binder is that the kids that graduate from Joe's school earn twice as much as kids from other schools in the state. it was so effective, the governor mandated that every county have one school like Joe's. And people have come from all over the world to see this school, and it's not technology that's the key, it's the curriculum is the key.
Now, do you know if
And
these
the,
schools are still in?
what, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time. Let me turn up my volume and see if that works. Say that again,
Do you
please.
know if any of these schools are still functioning today?
Well, when you look at the other schools, yeah, they are. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Joe's is functioning. This wasn't all that long ago. It was like in the early 2000s or
Oh,
mid
excellent.
2000s.
Well, maybe I should buy a book for our superintendent.
Absolutely.
So, but that's awesome. I think here's another show for Josh to do. I think he should have you on to explain
Um,
some of that.
Yeah. It would have to be in a couple weeks, but I would be more than interested in doing a small piece on this, Tony, if you have the time, my friend.
I'm retired. What else have I got?
But it's vitally important. I mean, this is
Absolutely.
the growth of our city. And at the one park meeting that I was attending, the safety service director made note that we're down to 31,000 people. And that's 2,000 less than when I did run for office, and that means the city's not going in the correct direction.
Right.
Exactly. Well, that's the other thing that I got. I've been having issues with my connection, but I didn't hear anybody say anything. When you talked about the loss of the jobs at the hospital, I think there were like 800 jobs or something.
They said
total.
808 jobs. Yeah.
Yeah. The city loses the taxes that those jobs generated.
Absolutely.
That's a huge hit.
And what irritates me is those are good-paying jobs.
Absolutely.
This isn't retail.
Yeah.
It isn't fast food. These are jobs you can actually raise your kids on. And the one thing I was saying was if you're at a job that you can't raise your family on, the city cannot run itself on that tax base. Those are the type of jobs that we have to reach out to. And one of the problems that we're running into with education with our own city is it's not that our kids aren't going off to our kids are doing one of a couple career choices. They're either going in the military, and if you go into the military, you see other parts of the world.
Right.
And you more than likely don't come back here.
Right.
If you go off to college today, you're getting 21st century degrees. And this is something else I talk about. I got friends, they're geologists, oil and fracking, pharmaceuticals, financial services. Massillon doesn't offer anything in the realm of 21st century jobs. And we don't have anyone in government. We actually don't have anybody in government in Stark County who's attempting to attract anything to any city in the county that's 21st century. So these kids get these degrees, and they have no other choice
But to move away.
but to move away.
But to leave. And look at all this. What do they call it? Brown ground or something like where the steel mills used to
The
be.
brown space.
I mean, that's all. Places we could expand business. Reestablish businesses there and get the high cost, like you said, get the high paying ones, get the technical ones in here.
Absolutely. But you got to have people who are willing to get up off their laurels. That's what I've always said.
Right.
It takes work. You got to get out there and you got to market the city and either persuade new business to open or maybe old businesses to move. And Massillon has wonderful things to offer. We have lots of brown space because a lot of companies want property.
Right.
We have low taxes.
Right.
Compared to other states. The taxes are horrible in some of those states. You try to open up a business in New York or California, taxes alone would tell you,
Right.
And the other two things that we got going good for us is utilities. Even though we gripe about our utility bills,
Right.
go ahead and look up electrical and gas rates online.
Right.
They'll scare you to death for other areas. And our food bills.
Right.
We have some of the lowest food bills in the country, and those are things that we as a city can use to attract businesses and people to our city.
Yeah, but I think right now that the two things you guys have been talking about tonight are key. I mean, if these things stay missing, all those other things are not enough to draw people in. People want good schools for their kids. You said that.
Yep.
And they want good health care, and they don't want to have to drive 20 to 40 minutes to get to it.
Well, I personally happen to be somebody who I hate every time I want to do something. I got to go to Canton.
Right.
I hate that.
Right.
I just absolutely hate that. And now for my health care, I have to go to Canton.
Right.
And it's just one more thing I just despise.
Yep.
Are the two of you going to be at the next Healthy Stark or whatever they're calling themselves now?
Right, and that's
Yep.
going to be on the 27th.
Yeah, Tuesday
At the rec center.
Yeah.
at the rec center.
I wanted to go to the council meeting, but I couldn't because I had another appointment that I couldn't cancel. But I am planning on being there. So
Okay, well, we'll see you there. And maybe
We'll-
we'll see you
we'll
here
connect.
on Josh's show.
but oh yeah, I love the show.
Um,
All right, guys, that's all I wanted to say. It was probably more than you counted on.
well, no, that's fine.
excellent.
No, that's excellent. I'll see you Tuesday, my friend.
Okay, buddy. Talk to you later.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
You said you had some text messages.
Yeah, that's what I was. The ones that I read.
So the one about do we have this kind of money? I just want to jump back to that real quick.
Okay.
It's just I think the concept is they got it, now they want to unload it. I don't think they're ever planning on paying it.
Right.
How are we going to pay it? Well, she's got $4.3 million. So you got a couple months that you can pay that stuff.
Right.
Well, actually, it's $500,000 over a year.
Right.
So I guess you could stay afloat for at least a year.
Yeah.
But it's their baby.
Yep.
So we'll see where they go with it. What was the other question, real quick?
The hold on.
I just want to make sure we actually answer 'em.
It's it was all from the same person. The taxes are correct. The amounts were taken from the auditor's website. They're playing a shell game with our taxes. Can't wait for Lee to run
Okay.
for mayor.
We'll skip that part. It's
Right,
because
right.
that's not what this is about.
No.
I haven't made any decision on that, and I'm just a concerned citizen. Like, hopefully everybody watching this is,
Okay.
and
It's saying that the feed shut down, even though. Hold on a second.
can somebody tell us if it's up?
It's showing that it's up. It might be a connection on their end. I'm starting to notice that when I do these streams, I have a really good connection here, and as long as it says that stream's up, it'll record and process fine on YouTube. It's when it leaves there and goes back downstream to like your place or
Right.
and the device, whatever device you're using, sometimes it hangs up. But I have the stream up here, and it's showing that it's good.
Well, you were right. It goes fast in the fallout
Yeah,
shelter.
I was gonna say because brother, it's 10 till 9.
I know.
It is 10 till 9, and I want to thank everyone for joining. I want to thank Tony for calling in.
And please take the site and share it.
Absolutely, and we are going to do this again. I'm not sure when.
Well, you're on at least once a week. But
Right, but with you, if that's something that you're interested in doing in the future.
Absolutely. I had a good time, and again, I hope I just brought facts and got people interested in this again, and maybe they'll get motivated and pick up the phone and make some phone calls. You'd be amazed what you can do when you pick up a phone.
Absolutely.
So,
Uh-oh. Here we. He says it's back up.
okay.
So,
Just in time, like the council will adjourn now.
right. So that's all I have. Tuesday at the rec center. If you want to go to the organization of the commission for the hospital, and hope to see everybody there. And do you have anything else?
Nope, I'm done.
Alrighty.
Thank you all for tuning in.
All right. So until next time, stay sharp, keep a tight shot group, and rock on.